the fish in which you're buying from the supermarket, and it can tell you if the fish is suitable to purchase. So if it's sustainably fished, or if it's farmed, or if it's yada yada.
That's brilliant. That's great.
So it has a traffic light thing. If it's green, it's good to go. Unfortunately, a lot of the green ones are the more expensive fishes.
Of course they are.
Because all the salmon and that, a lot of the salmon in Australian
so they should be expensive.
But like all the cheaper stuff is sort of like orange, amber, please, think twice about what you're buying. And then red, don't buy it because it's unsustainable and you shouldn't be buying that fish, which is extremely important this day and age, because we've got a fucking situation where we've got 70% of the world's fish supplies are actually depleted.
Would you... This is on another topic about supermarkets, though, because a lot of parents go in there to buy their kids' food. Would you let your taxes be raised slightly for kids to have nutritional breakfast and lunch at schools and learn about food as a actual course? You learn about food and you learn how to grow it, eat it, what's good for you, what's not good for you in school. It's part of your body.
I'll be happy to contribute to the community if that's what the community was spending their money on. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something I wanted to ask because I've always thought that's something that I'd let my taxes be raised for that. Obviously not wars, but food in schools.
I think
that means every child that turns up at that school would make their lunch every day. So they before lunchtime they go into a class, goes for half an hour, and they make something nutritious, maybe from their own school garden.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
What
a good idea that
growing.
is.
It's about growing. Every school should have a veggie garden and should teach their kids about growing food.
Yeah.
And I think they need to focus a bit more on home ec classes. Bring back the home ec stuff.
Imagine breakfast in the morning. Every school kid doesn't miss out on breakfast. Every school kid gets breakfast. And guess what? It's a stress of all parents. Not just the rich, but the poor.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It is a huge stress. And do you know what? The poor people, their kids have eaten twice today.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
That's fucking amazing.
Because a kid not having a breakfast in the morning is a huge disadvantage for them.
But what you teach them around food is the nutrition, but also where it's grown and where it comes from.
Yeah.
So there would have to be something in place to say that the food can't be slops, or like in America it's just crap.
Yeah, yeah.
But it would have to be farmed within the school.
Yeah, the 100-mile radius or something like that.
Yeah, or the school has a farm.
Yeah.
And part of the curriculum is going to actually...
Excursions.
You're talking about fucking...
This is awesome.
Major fucking, fundamental changes to our society.
No. That's not going to change to one part of society.
A
school must own a farm.
But don't get me wrong, I'm completely and utterly 110% with you. But... you're talking about if what that would do would mean that every lawn in the next generation would turn into a garden bed. No, it would, because if kids are being brought through school with these ideas of there's a farm in my school and I'm eating what's coming from this farm and yada yada, then they would then go into life going, I know all about agriculture.
Yeah, they'd want to be a part of that world because it's...
They want to be part of that world, and that disrupts the status quo. That disrupts the fucking...
The lawnmower companies.
The excessive farming and the major corporations who control all the farming. So what you're saying is a fucking unbelievably brilliant idea, and I haven't thought of that before.
My God, Sean hasn't thought of it.
It is pretty brilliant.
Oh my God.
That is big.
Well done, Chris.
Big things.
I think actually, now that we talk about it more, I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think it's so good that it's possible. It's not one of those ideas that are going to require so much change. You could definitely make that happen.
You could actually have a parliament that writes into legislation that in the next 5 years, all primary and secondary schools must acquire a farm within a certain radius and teach their students about food, and they must provide lunch and breakfast, and they could also trade with other farms from other schools for wheat and different products. So they might be a farm of corn, but they may trade, and then they will learn about trade.
Yeah.
And what it will do is get people back to the roots of actually what is money about, what is trade, what is sustainability, what is food, nourishment, all about.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think we've just hit some sort of fucking magical fucking point. This is why we get Chris on the podcast, because he's capable of this sort of fucking incredible shit. This is fucking amazing. So we're not just talking about eating well or all the rest of it. We're actually talking about how you can trade in society without this added extra
what I like
fucking Wall
about
Street
it is
shit.
bringing the farm back to the local area, because that's what, clearly what I can see needs to be done with taking the power away from corporations and giving the power back to the individual, especially with food. Is we need to start producing locally and trading locally again. It's this trading internationally and everything on a globalized scale that has seriously put us in a bad position. Yes, it has its pros, but it's got so many cons that I think the solution is putting it all back locally.
one thing that I've always thought about is that, let's say the world's coming to an end. My 4 litres of water is worth more than $1 million.
Yeah.
Because I can't buy anything with my $1 million, but I can drink this bloody water.
That's why you've got to have the essentials.
So
if world's going to shit, you need to go have your farm. You need to go sort out your food, man. Sort out your water, sort out your shelter.
And that just ties directly into what the Connect podcast is about. Because that, from an early age, eliminates the disconnect that our kids have and what we had from when we were growing up to the reality of what has to happen to get us this fucking produce and to give us our life-supporting goods.
And especially
it would change the mindset of a whole generation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So are you saying taxes raised so it...
I would pay more taxes.
You don't necessarily have to have
So
taxes.
it's subsidised by the government? Are you talking about, or just raise school fees?
Well, I don't believe in private schools. I think education should be for everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
And just because you can pay teachers more, I think the best teachers should be smart enough not to just go to the biggest pay. They should be the best teachers should be in the most economic devoid situations where the poverty people get the best education and raise everybody up.
Well, then again, there are amazing people that need to be nurtured with amazing teachers.
Well, no, yeah, but you know what? You look at countries like Switzerland, that they pay their teachers as well as their doctors, and teachers should be paid as well as doctors.
We need to give our teachers more credit than
way more credit. They're raising our young, and I think we need to reform the education system. What we do is we put a lot of kids in there to learn about maths and science, and you're going to be an accountant, and they just come part of the cogs. And also while they're in there, we give them body image issues about being fat and skinny and Britney Spears and all sorts of different things. And we need to revolutionise the way that we teach our children, because that will revolutionise society. And if we teach our children about food, which is the most sustainable thing, water, if they have it as a course and part of their upbringing, and the private schools could have bigger farms maybe. And then also we talk to them about nutrition.
Really luxurious meat. Or veal.
Well, I think the meat farm kind of side of things will be when you go to high school.
Oh, okay.
Because
I like the sound of that.
Because I think that if you're too young, you don't want to be teaching a youngster how to slaughter a cow. You want to teach them how to grow corn first. Mm. And then you go into that later on. And I think also what that will also do is that if schools are smart, and if they make enough food to obviously and trade with other schools, and with the law that they can't trade with any outside company.
Yeah.
They can only trade with each other, and they have to learn about surplus. What do they do with their surplus? Mm-hmm. What foods are worth more than other foods?
Yeah.
And and does a school stop growing corn because it's not popular and start growing another?
So it'll become
thing?
like a little industry,
so,
a little.
Yeah, but it's it's only an experiment, because schools are all about experimentation and being young. Within the schools, you're not allowed legally to profit off it, or to sell your excess, or anything like that, because you're not teaching about sustainability. Yeah. You're talking about...
one of the things I really like about that idea is people touching the fucking earth again. Getting their hands into the fucking ground, touching the earth. One of the best experiences I had in my working life was being able to work in a nursery for a couple of years just out of school. and I, just potted plants and dealt with dirt and it was just like topiaries, trees and hedges and all that sort of stuff. But it wasn't edible, but it was still, learning how plants survive and grow. And even we've got a herb garden, just a tiny herb garden out on our veranda.
I think it's actual magic.
It's amazing.
It is magic.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see. You can use some basil. You can cut it off. And then sooner or later, it's actually back there again. It's fucking incredible. It's like this sustainable fucking thing that if you nurture and look after this thing.
What do you think this kind of idea would do to the study? Let's say they leave school. They've left school now. Now what?
Well, I think that they go through their honeymoon period of being adolescent and fucking whatever, having a good time. But then I think eventually, when I buy my house, I can guarantee you 50% of that yard is going to be for edible food. For things, veggies, if not more. A bit of room for people to fucking do whatever they want. And
do you think people also know that, to eat this much, we ate a lot of zucchini the other year, and old St. Andrews ran out of zucchini.
Yeah.
They sold all their zucchini.
So they'd have more sympathy for other people who have food problems.
You know what I mean? I think it would create a bit of empathy.
Yeah.
I think, and you're talking about
weather. You're talking about weather. You're talking about weather systems.
Let's talk about it on a real basic, the bottom line level. Are you talking about creating an environment which is connected to their environment?
We're actually taking people back to their environment.
Back to their environment.
Because people are so disconnected at the moment from the world around them. It's easy to go into a supermarket and, especially in America, it's like a lolly aisle. But if you connect children especially to their environment and connect them back to the earth and back to what is actually real, where does stuff come from, and actually also connect them at the same time to, I might be growing this, but I also need to connect with that other school now. And I need to start building proper relationships. So the students have to do it. The students have to say, well, what do we need to make this lasagna? We need to connect with that school. So we send this person over.
It brings them back to the principles of what trade and money were originally created for. And it's like they'll be able to see the whole money thing, but in its most basic, simple form, and then they'll go, what the fuck has it turned out like this?
And because you're teaching them since they're 5 about what they're about to... this goes from 5 to when they leave school. Of course, they learn about science. And you know what? Science... The scientists can take them straight into the garden. Because so much science happens in the garden. The English teacher can take them in there to be inspired. The maths teacher can go in and say, well, how much corn have we grown? And we want to trade this with this.
Ratio and stuff.
So it's all... Everything they're learning, everything they're learning, maths, science, English, whatever, all can kind of come around their school and their farm and their classrooms.
And relate it back to the real world. Finally link education with something real.
So if you're interested, let me relate this to a real world thing that's happened. So in Greece, when they've had all this fucking downturn and global financial crisis shit, credit crunch and all this, there was this community that started to a whole sort of neighbourhood that started to grow in all their front yards. Each person grew a different plant.
Community garden.
Community garden. So person grew potatoes, carrots, lettuce, so on and so forth. And they developed a community where they just went and knocked on their neighbour's door and said, "Hi guys, I wouldn't mind a carrot or two tonight. Can I take one?" Yada yada.
It eliminates greed and eliminates.
But it makes cooperation in community, which is what we don't. How many people listening to this know who your neighbours are? Know what they do? Are they good people? Do they even need to be good people because they don't need to speak to you? You know what I mean? It comes down to the point of, love and cooperation and, are we here to make relationships? And do my relationships just need to connect with people I meet at work or wherever,
Well, that's the same thing. As a school may have let's say a wheat farm, and they make the wheat, then they buy in the yeast, get some milk, they make the bread. And then they go to these other schools, hey, look, we've got bread. we want this from you and this from you and this from you. So obviously then it will become, well, how much is the bread worth?